So, good morning and a happy Zois Chanuka. Do any of you know why is it called Zois Chanuka? The 8th day.
Zois? No.
Surely Hanukkah started already 8 days ago. So why do we say today Zois Chanuka? This is the deeper, the main Chanuka, the 8th day. Many ask the question, the miracle was only 7 days, so why do you eat the 8th day? But where does this phrase Zois Chanuka come from? Do any of you know?
No.
From this morning's reading from the Torah. So, why is it that Hanukkah, we read the passage concerning the offerings of all the heads of the tribes from Parshat Nassau.
Is there a
It's the longest parsha in the Chumash, primarily because there's a repetition of what each head of the tribes gave. For what? What was it for?
Korbanot?
Yes, so what's it got to do with Hanukkah the light?
No, but it says Chanuka HaMatzbeach.
Yes, it says Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach. The truth is that this was the first Hanukkah of the Beit Hamikdash, of the sanctuary, of the Mishkan. Everything started with the giving of the Torah. That brought the Torah into this world, but to represent the holiness of the Torah, Hashem said, Vasuli Mikdash, it was made for me a Mikdash. And you can ask, how does this fit in specifically with Chanukkah? So some say the Mishkan was actually concluded on the 25th of Keslev, but they had to wait to dedicate it until which date? What was the date of the dedication of the sanctuary mentioned in the reading of the Torah from the first day of Hanukkah until today? What was it? Which date was it?
Like the second day of Tevat? No?
Pardon?
Second day of Tevat?
No. Rosh Chodesh Nisan. First day of Nisan. So, first day of Nisan. So why don't we read on the first day of Nisan? In fact, in some synagogues they do, but why do we read it especially on Hanukkah? Because this is the whole essence, as we'll soon see. Do any of you know which is the longest parsha of the Chumash?
You just told us.
Pardon?
You just told us.
Parshat Nassau. How many verses are there in it?
0.
36 passages?
Pardon? The same number of verses as are found in the longest chapter of Tehillim. Which is the longest chapter of Tehillim?
119.
And how many verses are in it?
22 times 8.
Which comes to
176.
176. We have the same number of verses in this parsha. And by the way, also the same number, which is the longest tractate in the Talmud Bavli?
Shabbos?
No. It's Bava Basra, the last gate of the Zikin, of relationships in man and his fellow man. How many did you think? How many pages?
176.
Correct. So what can you learn from here? The key is given in the chapter of Tehillim, because that chapter is remarkable. Not only does it contain 22 letters of the alphabet times 8 verses, you'll also find all key phrases are repeated 8 times. And I won't go into this now, but the structure of the menorah goes all the way through that chapter of Tehillim. So, what does it refer to, that chapter of Tehillim? What is its heading? And if you know, what does it deal with? Then it starts with the verse, Ashrei Tmimei Derech Holchem Torah Hashem. Happy are those who have a path of perfection. There's no place in the world where you find a true path towards perfection, except Aholchim b'Torah Hashem. It says, the people who follow the Torah of Hashem, they're not perfect. No? We're not born perfect, we're born imperfect. But they have a path towards perfection. They know the purpose of life is to try and be as perfect as we can be. Perfect in which area?
In midos.
In character. Perfect in character, which means also trying to reach a perfection in behavior and also in extending one's mind, one's inner self, to be able to maximize the tzelem Elokim that Hashem has given man. That's Tamimei Derech. And the whole of that long chapter of Tehillim deals with all the challenges, but also all the excitement, adventure which lies in this path towards perfection. Only the last verse says, Ta'iti. People of Israel say, I've gone astray. Kaseh oved, like a lost sheep. So we say, Bakish Avdacha, we say to Hashem, please Hashem, you go and search the lost Jews who've lost their path and aren't on this path of perfection. So there's a request from David HaMelech in the name of the people of Israel who are lost sheep. You Hashem, please, inwardly I've not really forgotten your mitzvah. And we see this in our time. In our time when the vast majority of Jews have unfortunately gone away, we're lost like a lost sheep that wants to get back to its shepherd. And that's what we all hope, that although not everyone is on this Tamimei Derech, because of ignorance, because of suffering, because of persecutions, because of assimilation. So, we hope that whoever is left from the remnant of Israel in the world will find their way back. So, let's transfer this message to the Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash, symbolically, but on a very deep level, it represents this path of Torah. The essence of Beit HaMikdash is to have external ways of serving Hashem which represent the path towards perfection. So, the 12 tribes of Israel were asked to encircle the sanctuary, the Kohanim, the most inner part, then the Leviim, and then the 12 tribes of Israel, which are described as being Bamidbar. In other words, the Torah of Hashem, which is represented in the Mikdash, in the first sanctuary, was the place of the continuity of Sinai. Sinai, that was such a supernatural event which changed the world. It said it was going to change the world, but we see today it did change the world, in fact. So, this is continued in the way in which Hashem continued to speak to Moshe Rabbeinu from the central part of the Holy of Holies. So it was a continuation of Sinai. Because the Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, incorporates the event of Sinai, and there is a continuation of the holiness of Torah, as we described in our previous shiurim. The Aron HaKodesh, from which came out the cherubs, from between those cherubs, Hashem's voice came somehow to Moshe Rabbeinu to continue with the Torah. So, this Aron is given the name Aron Shemisham Teitzei Ora La'olam. That is the source of true light for the whole world, the Holy of Holies, which represents, as we already explained, the 8th dimension Just like the gift of the Torah was also after 7 times 7 days, also the 8th dimension, the supernatural dimension, to which Hashem made the covenant with the people of Israel. But the whole tribes had to surround it. And that's what we find in the reading of the Torah on Chanuka. Because Chanuka represents a time when the darkness of Greek civilization in comparison with the light of the Torah was engulfing the people of Israel. And there were two ways of the manner in which the Syro-Grecians wanted to obliterate the people of Israel. They certainly targeted the Jews who were loyal to their faith more than anyone else, because they did not go in the way of Alexander. They went in the way of the idolaters, and therefore they forced and tortured those who still remained loyal to the worship of one God. But at the same time, they were not just those who wanted to obliterate the bodies of the people of Israel. Because they said, if you're going to accept our religion, our lifestyle, you can join us, just like the communists. Communists were quite ready to receive Jews who would leave aside their faith in God and their service to God. In fact, there was a huge section of Russian Jewry that became complete communists, even some of the leaders of the communists. And this was a similar attack on Judaism, a double attack. Both the Nazi and the communists joined together to destroy the Jews as a separate identity, but at the same time to permit those Jews who would give up Judaism, because that's which is really the separation between Jew and Gentile, that they should intermingle. So as a result of this double-edged attempt to destroy the Jews, if we wouldn't have had such hostilities, the Jewish population of the world would be 1,000 times as great as it is today. And even today, Jews get lost to Judaism all the time. And there's only a core that remains truly loyal to Hashem and to His Torah, as happened to Santa Chashmonaim. So therefore, the reading of this parsha is very significant. And we find, not on the 8th day of the dedication of the first sanctuary, that dedication was for 12 days. Each day was given over to a different tribe. The first 12 days of the month of Nisan. And then it says, now I would like you to turn then to the part of the Parsha today, therefore, we came to the 8th day, but that's not the day of first Chanuka mentioned in Chumash. It's just the last day of Chanuka. But the words Zos Chanuka are the conclusion of the 12 days, in which it says, return to it. So that's why we have the last reading of the Shlishi is the longest one. And then we come to the Chanukat HaMizbeach, which came at the end of these 12 days. So it says in chapter 6, verse 84, Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach b'yom mashach oto me'it Dessler. This was the dedication of the altar on the day when it was anointed. And hence this word, Mashiach, is important. Anointment with oil was the way to express the warmth of the human emotions and the enlightenment, because oil brings light to the highest level. I'm sorry, yes, you're right, it's chapter 7. Chapter 7, verse 44. Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach, on the day when it was anointed from the princes of Israel.
Excuse me.
And then,
No, again you made a mistake. 54, not 44, 54.
88.
84, verse 84, chapter 7, verse 84. Here we have Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach, and because of that it's called Zot Chanukah. It's interesting also in Maharal's Tzur, the first mention of Maharal's Tzur Shuati is Chanukat HaMizbeach, not Chanukat HaMenorah, but Chanukat HaMizbeach. On the day when it was anointed from the princes of Israel, that describes all their gifts, and puts down the sun mount, and then it says in verse 88, it's Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach Acharei Mashachato. This is the dedication of the Mizbeach after it had been anointed. So I think this verse is significant. In other words, it was very important the Mizbeach should be anointed because the purpose of the service of the Mishkan to bring through the service to Hashem, represented by all the Korbanot, the people of Israel were to be united, all the 12 tribes, they've got unity. And they all brought the same. Now each tribe gives equal value to all the other tribes, which is the important principle of unity of Am Yisrael. A person shouldn't think that my tribe is better than the others. Sfadim are better than Ashkenazim. No. Ashkenazim, Hasidim are better than Ashkenazim. No. Each one has to do his duty and recognize everyone of Am Yisrael have to surround the sanctuary and have to try to fulfill the Torah and to dedicate their lives to Hashem, represented by the altar. But in verse 88, it doesn't say on the day when it was anointed. It says, Acharei Mushachato, after it was anointed. In other words, the message is, what happened in the past should apply in the present and the future. The dedication that took place of these 12 tribes is an indication that the service in the sanctuary had to make a big impression in order it should continue afterwards. So then the next verse, 89, is also important, because it says when Moshe went to the tent of meeting to go and speak with him, with Hashem, he heard the voice, Midaber Elav, is speaking to him from over the covering which was on the Ark of the Covenant, from between the two Kruvim, and he spoke with him. So here we see that this is put together immediately with the Zot Chanukat HaMizbeach. Otherwise, when all Am Yisrael are united and they all serve Hashem, then Hashem, He continues the divine revelation, which started, it's called Aron HaEdut, we'll understand that soon, what does that mean? The Ark of the Covenant, because the Ark contained the Luchot HaEdut, the tablets of stone, which are always called testimony. When they were there, and they were miraculous in their formation, it proved that here we're dealing with supernature, not with nature. And then, in the reading of the Torah, we don't stop here. We carry on with the beginning, as you would have noticed this morning, with the beginning of the next Parsha. And what's the next Parsha? Would have expected, okay, it should continue with what happened afterwards. So it's something different apparently. It says, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, that's now chapter 8, speak to Aaron and say to him, Baruch Chai Tanero, when you raise up the lamps, then opposite the face of the menorah, the 7 lamps should bring light. By asking Aaron did so. Opposite the face of the menorah, he brought up the lamps, like Hashem commanded Moshe, and this is the work of the menorah. It was made of one solid piece of gold, from its base to its blossoms. It was one piece, according to the vision which Hashem showed to Moshe, so he made the menorah. So the question is, why does it go over from the Chanuka HaMizbeach, the Chanuka Mishkan, and then it emphasizes the menorah? So Rashi asked this question. You know what Rashi answered? Why is this parsha, I'm reading over Rashi, I'll paraphrase it in English right away. Why is this parsha, the menorah, put straight after the parsha of the major princes of each tribe? Because when Aaron saw the fantastic contributions of each one of the leaders of the tribes, there's one tribe missing, not mentioned. Because the 12 tribes also take Joseph's 2 sons, Menashe and Ephraim, to be equivalent tribes, as Yaakov Avinu already said in his deathbed, that to a certain extent they have the role of Kiruvim and Shimon, and therefore they're reckoned amongst the 12 tribes, and Levi is not there. And after all, the tribe of Levi, they were the central part of the camp in the desert. The 12 tribes were encamped around in the Machane Israel, but there's Machane Leviah, encampment of the Levites, closer to the sanctuary, the encampment of the Kohanim, also including the tribe of Levi, not included. So he said, what? The unity of the real Israel doesn't include us? And he wasn't given the task to bring such offerings. So therefore it says, he was concerned, he was not with them in this Chanukat HaMizbeach. And after all, who did the work on the Mizbeach, on the altar? The Kohanim and Leviim. Neither he nor his tribe. Which Baruch says to him, your task is greater than the task of the other tribes. Shatan Madlik or Meitivat, because you kindle, there's a mitzvah for you to kindle, others can also kindle, but Hatavat Nerot, to make sure that the lamps, they are lit in a good manner to clean out the bowls, that belongs to the Kohanim. And therefore that's what you have to do. So now then it goes, so the question is, which is already asked, that why is it greater? The Ramban asked the question on this Rashi, which comes also from the sages, but it said, what does it mean? Why is it better? Because why is this better? Nevertheless, the tribe of Levi should be included in the great celebration of the dedication, consecrating the first sanctuary in the world. So the Ramban says, what is the special consolation for kindling the menorah? He could just as well have told him a greater consolation, that he is the one who's given the duty, Yasimu Kotorabi Apecha. The tribe of Levi, they had to bring the incense offering, which is on a high level, because that comes from the inner altar, which is in the Kodesh, in the Dvir. And also, they are connected with all the offerings. Why did it mention the service of Yom Kippur, which was the Kohanim and the Kohen Gadol? No other tribe was permitted to participate. And the Avodah Yom Kippur is only with him, and he goes into the most inner part of the Holy of Holies, because he is the Holy One who stands in the temple to serve Hashem and also to give the bracha, Birchat Kohanim. It's only his tribe. So therefore his tribe were entirely servants of Hashem. That's one question that Ramban asked. The second question he asked is, why should he altogether feel disappointed? Because his offering is greater than all the offerings of the other heads of the tribes and the other tribes. Because even during these days of dedication, the 12 days, when there was all Chanukat HaMizbeach, who was given special offerings to bring? They had to bring offerings all these days. And he was commanded to do them. So therefore, if you're going to tell me, the Ramban says, that Aaron was appointed, the other heads of the tribes, they brought free will offerings, which they weren't really commanded to do. They brought them of their own. Like, generally speaking, most of the korbanot of the Kohanim and Leviim are obligations. Obligations of people, and they come to the Kohanim to put them into practice. But these were korbanot l'dava, person also allowed to bring a free will offering. And these were all free will offerings of the princes, and he didn't participate. So the question is, how was he comforted from the lights? Because the lights is also an obligation. It's a choiva. So therefore he says, to understand this Agada, this is very deep, because it's a reference to something else. It's a reference to Chanuka Shel Neirot, a special Chanuka which will come in the second temple period through Aaron and his descendants. In other words, the Hasmoneans who came from Matzishahu Kohen Gadol, his father was Kohen Gadol, and his descendants. They were the ones who saved Am Yisrael from the Greeks. Because the Ramban here follows, in accordance with mentioned by the sages, but he does it regularly, that anything which you find unusual in Bereshit, and also in later parts of the Chumash, passages also that seem to hint at other things. So it's Masa Votziman Labanim, because the Chumash is, like the rest of the Tanakh also, most of it, is written in prophetic language. Because even grammatically, the past becomes the future, and the future becomes the past. So therefore, what's mentioned in the Chumash is a reference to what might happen in the course of the history of Israel and the nations. So it's reference to Chashmonaim. Then the Ramban said, I found this in an ancient, apparently Mishnaic period, Megillah of Rabbeinu Nissim, who mentioned the Agadah and says, he says, I saw in the ancient Midrash that when the tribes, 12 tribes, brought their offerings, and the tribe of Levi wasn't amongst them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, speak to Aaron, there's going to be another Chanukah, where there will be kindling of lights. And I'm going to see that it's your descendants, the Kohanim, who will have great miracles. And they will be able to make a new Chanukah, which is called on the name of the Hashmonaim. And that's why it mentions here the Parsha of kindling the lights through Aaron next to the Chanukat HaMizbeach. And then the Ramban brings another Midrash, Tanchuma, a Midrash Rabbah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, go and tell Aaron, don't be disappointed, because you have to prepare yourself for something greater. The Korbanot, they apply, all these Korbanot mentioned at length, they apply as long as there is a Beit HaMikdash. But the lights remain forever. They will always be lit. In fact, it's called the Chukat Olam, Dorot Yechem, it's called eternal law. Also, all the blessings which I've given you to bless the people of Israel, mentioned just before the Chanukat HaMizbeach, where there's a mention of Bechat Kohanim, that will also apply for all times, even when there's no Beit HaMikdash. So he said it's well known when there's no Beit HaMikdash and there are no offerings brought, was destroyed, Afanerot B'Telot. There's no more kindling of the menorah either. So it's not referring here to the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, because there's no Beit HaMikdash, no menorah. But it's a reference to the Chanukah menorah, which applies even after the destruction of Beit HaMikdash in our Galut. And also Bechat Kohanim, which is mentioned before Chanukat Nesim, applies forever. So this is the Ramban's interpretation, and I think we can explain it as follows on a deeper level, in accordance with what we already mentioned previous shiurim, and in accordance with the way in which this parsha is linked with Ashrei Tmimei Derech. You know, the concept of 8 is above time and space, so it applies forever, as we already described. While 7 refers to things that happen in a natural way. And what is the secret here? In fact, it's connected with what Rashi brings. We go back to Rashi. What does it mean here in chapter 8, when it's El Mul Panei Menorah, opposite the face of the menorah, the 7 lamps shall bring light. So it refers to the second, Rashi brings, the second, the lights, the 7 lights, the wicks were turned towards the central light, and the central light was turned towards the parochet, the covering of the Holy of Holies, to indicate, you follow now what you brought from, both from the Maharal, and Afish and others, as follows, the 6 and 7 and 8, that the 8th dimension is supernatural. The Torah Shebechtav, the written Torah, represents light for the whole world on a supernatural level. That's Torah Shebechtav. That is the divine Torah from heaven. What is the Hadlakat Menorah done by the Kohanim? The Kohanim's task is to teach Torah to the people, which means Torah Sheba'al Peh, which means the oral tradition. So the menorah represents the oral tradition. So the Kohanim represent the teachers of Israel, who want to kindle the light, to bring out the inner light of the Torah which is hidden, and demonstrate how it should be applied day by day by every individual and by the people of Israel, whether there is a Beit HaMikdash or not a Beit HaMikdash. In other words, Ner Mitzvah V'Torah Or, the true light of Torah Sheba'al Peh, is the significance of Chanuka. That's why Chanuka is the festival of the oral tradition, because that's what's represented by the menorah. In fact, we have downstairs, on the parochet, on the covering of the Aron HaKodesh, what, have you looked at that menorah? There's a menorah there. And what does it say, if you look carefully, on the flames? You saw what it says on the flames?
Ner mitzvahs.
No, that's on the side. But in the flame, which decorates the parochet, it refers to the 6 orders of the Mishnah. If you look carefully, the flame is made in such a manner. On the basis of what the sages say, that the 6 orders of the Mishnah correspond to the verse Vayuma Tzecha. Chosen, Chachmat V'dat Yerot Hashim U'Tzarot. There's a verse, as is explained in the Sugya, near the Sugya in Gemara Shabbos. It says that the 6 flames of the menorah, they correspond to the Torah Sheba'al Peh, divided into 6 sections in the 6 orders of Shas. Shas means Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, 6 orders of the Mishnah. Why? Because the Mishnah deals, how do you bring the divine into the material world? Because this is the essence of Torah Sheba'al Peh. God knows which aspects of the material world, and nearly all of the dinim given here, have to do with either speech, which we have in this world, or they have to do with study, also with the mouth, everything, and how we fulfill all the mitzvot masiyot, the practical mitzvot, in different areas of life. So this is the essence of Torah Shebaal Peh. And the middle one, as the Ner Maravi, it points towards the Holy of Holies. And the others on each side, they point towards the middle one. In other words, the source of Torah Shebaal Peh, which is the open Torah, lies in the hidden Torah Shebichtav. So this never becomes nullified. This is eternal, the eternal power of the Torah. And this is the great task of the Kohanim and the Leviim. And it's interesting in our time, there is a way of identifying different Jewish families. Well, many families go back to Gerim. It's very interesting that there's been one discovery in recent times of DNA, which turns out that nearly all the people who today call themselves Kohanim, most of them, you can show they come from one source, through the DNA. And there's a person I know well in the city who has written books on it, lectures on it, because it's well known in many circles. It's one with other tribes you can't do that. You can't do it with the Levium either. So it's because it's become too intermingled. But with the Kohanim, it's been uncovered in our time, because the Levium in fact were punished. They didn't believe that they don't get Masa, because Ezra wanted them all to come with him. At least the Levium should come to build the second Beit HaMikdash. So Kohanim came with him, but Levium stayed in Bovel. And the other parts of Yehuda also, most of them stayed in Bovel. And the 10 tribes had become intermingled already. So this, however, remains forever, to have teachers of Torah who will continue to keep the light of Torah burning. So I think this is a most important concept of Zois Chanuka, because Zois Chanuka really means it comes from the last day of the consecration, or the 12th day, when all the 12 tribes had brought their offerings. But the continuation of Zois Chanuka is Acharim, which is Chanukat HaMizbeach, this actual service in the Beit HaMikdash of the 12 tribes. And then it follows on. We go read the next passage as well from the parsha that comes afterwards, of kindling the menorah, which is forever, the way that Ramban explains it. Therefore, in fact, it's well known, Chasam Sofer Shita Chanukah has certain qualities of the din of the Torah, which is, because it really is instituted by the Chachomim, by the later Chachomim, not like Megillat Esther, there's still prophets around. There are no more prophets left, so the Anshe Knesset Agdol instituted the Chanukah, so it's the Rabbanon. And nevertheless, there are laws of our Chanukah you don't find in other mitzvahs, like Mahatmin and Mahadrin. And like the laws, you've got to sell your garment or go begging to be able to have Chanukah lights. And it's also significant that the Chanukah lights, in fact, have caused such a revolution in families and communities all over the world. Because even people who don't keep other mitzvot, they're affected by Chanukah. I'll give you an example from recent times. One of the most popular novelists in America, the Holden Group. He wrote very many famous novels. And he went to a cheder, but afterwards he describes it, he didn't carry on so much with Judaism, but he came about Teshuvah. And then when he came about Teshuvah, he wrote the book, This Is My God. And how people can, how people in America, it's a very good book to give to Americans, very much an American style. I mean, he's a world-famous novelist. And this book describes Judaism in the language, in the style, which is very suitable for not yet religious Jews. And how is introduced it? Introduce it with Chanuka. Why? Because in America, you can't, wherever you go, and now it's on the Chanuka time, wherever you go, there's a Chanukiah. It's often an Xmas tree also, there's a Chanukiah. So therefore, you'll find in most American homes, which you could say are Jewish, even though only one side is Jewish, there's a Chanukiah. And especially now with Chabad, so it's become more and more popular. It's known all over the world. And that's why it's a big mitzvah, Pesum and Issa. It's really the miracle of the survival of the Jewish people through the power of Torah. If there would be no Jews observing the Torah, no Jews learning the Torah Sheba'al Peh, then it would be darkness for the Jewish people, nothing left. So therefore Hashem is telling us today we're in a most significant, we don't realize what a fantastic time we're living in. And if you start immersing yourself in what it says in the prophets and the words of our sages, we live in the most dramatic time ever to be a Jew. And to be a Jew means to try and find out what Judaism is all about. Because if we'll only work harder and spread the light, it will surely bring to a complete transformation of human civilization. And it's within our hands, we just got to work harder. So we've got to keep on going up. Each one should try as much as possible to fill himself with enormous inspiration that will bring a way of driving away the darkness that surrounds us. As the prophet says, Kumi oile kivo oile, Hashem said, look at the Yeshaya, arise, my light, wake up because your light has come. Darkness covers the earth, and deep mist all the nations, all the states. They're so confused, there's such chaos and such hate and such weapons of destruction. It's a terrible situation. It's a terrorist situation, and it was a terrible situation. Allah is Hashem, but upon you, Hashem is shining. So we've got to keep the light of Hashem burning in our hearts and homes and our communities. B'zchut Ze'em Yetz Hashem, we'll see the 8th dimension, the Kino Shel David HaMelech, which has 8 strings, is reference to the Ben David, Mashiach Tzidkenu, or Mashiach, shall come in our days.
Amen.